I'm gonna tell you something that will probably hurt you a little bit. Your product probably isn't as valuable as you think it is, because you spend weeks building a website and months making a product, but your bank account is still at zero. It's because you're trying to sell a band-aid problem to a person with a broken leg problem. The market doesn't care about how many hours you worked or how much you grinded this week. It only cares about its own problems. Last year I read 36 books to figure this out, and I used to think that I knew it all and that I had the perfect solution for everybody. But I was dead wrong. So today I'm going to show you the exact machine that I used to hit a $30,000 day with a client of mine, and I'm gonna show you why nobody is buying your shit. Why nobody buys your shit, right? Well, think of a dentist, right? Or think of Jake Paul getting knocked out here. Jake Paul had a very bad problem, okay? He had his jaw completely smashed and he was in excruciating pain. So Jake didn't think about like dentists' websites and stuff like that. He just wanted to solve this ASAP because he had broken jaw. He had basically teeth knocked out of his freaking mouth and he needed to solve it now, right? So essentially, toothache, if you didn't know that, is one of the biggest motivators for people to pay money, right? When you have a toothache, it has been scientifically shown, or like studies have been done on this, that when people have toothache, they are willing to spend way more than they would normally do on healthcare, right? So if you have a toothache, a really bad one, it affects your mood, it affects your everything, basically, your entire life in that moment. So you want to stop it now, right? And you want to give them your money so that they can stop this pain, right? So this is what you need to do with your prospect. If your prospects are in this pain, basically, like a toothache, they would obviously buy from you ASAP, right? So if you aren't making money with your product right now, you aren't a dentist. You're selling something that's nice to have. So you need to find a problem that is painful and big enough so people are willing to pay a lot of money for it fast, okay? That's very important, fast. So when it comes to pain, right? Pain is the motivator to buy and do anything. We as human beings are basically pain avoidance creatures, right? We work on pain avoidance basis. That means that we are trying to avoid pain at all costs, okay? So it's basically taking the path of least resistance. You definitely heard this beforehand. And the same applies to selling anything online, okay? If your product doesn't basically put them in pain, okay, it's not valuable enough and it's not gonna sell enough. That's the most important part. Like, let's say that again, you had a broken tooth right now, tooth, it doesn't matter. And you would need to solve it ASAP, right? But if you, for example, had, I don't know, like a dirty window or whatever, you would probably delay this as much as possible. This is what your prospects are thinking. So cultivate pain and suffering, okay? It's very, very important, because if you don't put pain on your prospects, it's not going to work. I'm not trying to say that you should harm your prospects or anything like that. I'm just trying to say that you should basically put them in the awareness of their current situation, right? So we can do this by two things, okay? You're probably not selling enough right now because A, you don't solve painful enough problem, or you frame it incorrectly, okay? So let's take a look at the painful problem, okay? So painful problem just comes down to having a lot of value. This is the value equation, and it basically shows how you can create value, okay? So we have dream outcome, we have perceived likelihood of achievement, we have time delay, and we have effort and sacrifice. If your product doesn't have a dream outcome and a lot of proof, if it's taken slow time, and if it's a lot of sacrifice and effort on their end, it's not valuable, okay? So what is the purpose of this equation is not to have like this upper version as high as possible, it's to have this lower version as low as possible, right? So it's as low as possible and this as high as possible, because anything divided by zero is technically infinity, okay? So that means that if you, for example, wanted to six-pack example, this is like probably the best one. If you sold a product which basically if people clicked on it and bought it, they would instantly get a six-pack without any effort and sacrifice, and sacrificing their like favorite treats and stuff like that, that would be infinitely valuable product. And you could be selling that for 5 million, 10 million, $100 million, right? So that's what I'm trying to say with this, right? If your product right now is basically not fulfilling the lower part of this equation correctly, it doesn't really matter how much like you can promise them and how much proof you have, right? Because if it takes a lot of sacrifice on their end, usually people won't take it, because again, people are working on pain avoidance basis, right? Either you're not solving painful enough problem, as I said, or you need to reframe it. Okay, this is most cases, right? Because people have usually like pretty valuable products, but they just frame it incorrectly. So we need to understand something called the funnel equation, basically. Okay, and that's the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. Okay, POF, MOF, and BOF. Okay, these three are super important because most people have problem and leaks in their funnel, which is costing them a lot of money, honestly. So you probably right now have some client acquisition system that you're using to get your clients, and you're wondering, why the hell am I not making any money, right? So we have to start from the top, okay? If you want to basically put something in a funnel, it needs to start at the top, not at the bottom, obviously, right? So this is the basically lead generation and traffic sourcing, okay? So let's say that you're running Facebook ads, right? So let's say Facebook ads, okay? So if this part doesn't work, it doesn't really matter what you have below that, okay? So below that, you usually have some website that you send people to, right? So let's say landing page, LP, right? And this is used to lead nurture, okay? If you don't know what lead nurturing means, that simply means turning basically a cold lead into a warm lead, okay? Cold lead doesn't know who you are, doesn't know who you do, and doesn't really want your stuff. Warm lead, on the other hand, knows you, right? And knows what you're selling and is kind of interested in what you're selling, okay? Just think of it this way, very simple. And then you have bottom of the funnel, which is basically the conversion of the prospect itself, taking some action, right? So booking a call or whatever, right? Most people, what they do is that they add friction too soon, okay? So when they, for example, run ads and stuff like that, they frame it incorrectly, okay? Because they put a lot of friction into like this part instead of putting it at the bottom, right? Because think about it. First of all, you need flow, right? Most people, what they do is that they put too much pressure on the top part, but they forgot these two at the bottom, right? And they start adding friction to their website, like this CTA and that CTA and multiple CTAs and stuff that they can do, and joining a waiting list and shit like that. It doesn't really work that way, okay? You need to have single purpose, as you remember from my previous videos. If you don't, go ahead and watch it, because I basically explained what I'm using to build funnels that convert like crazy. With one, for example, pretty recently we made $30,000 in a single day, okay? So that's that, okay? So top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Just understand that your funnel might be the problem right now, okay? Because you might think, okay, so I'm not selling because my product sucks. It doesn't need to be that case, okay? You could have pretty valuable product, but you're just framing it incorrectly, okay? So on the funnel, it's very important to frame it correctly. If you want to learn how to do that, join the waiting list down below. I'm going to be opening up a free community called Funnel Hub pretty soon, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of valuable information about funnels in there. So click the link below, okay? There should be like a form link or something like that, because I'm going to be taking only a certain amount of people, and I want to take only people that care about results. Okay, so if you want that, you can go ahead down below and join the waiting list for Funnel Hub, and I'm going to be explaining exactly how I frame correctly inside of the funnel itself, okay? So just to recap, think of top of the funnel as, do they actually see you? Do you have flow, right? Because if you don't have flow, you cannot monetize. In the middle of the funnel, you're explaining the problem, right? Simply as that. Because if you cannot explain the broken leg problem to them better than they understand it, they won't believe you. And then bottom of the funnel is where the friction comes, and that should be the easy button solution, okay? So if you basically got the leads, you showed them their problem, right? And now they are willing to go on a call with you. If you have a lot of friction to go on a call with you, it's not going to work, okay? So just have very simple scheduling page or something like that, or Calendly embeds like thing in your website, so that they don't need to go on additional pages and stuff like that. It's very important. And lastly, I want you to understand that I, for a long time, thought that websites aren't profitable at all, right? I used to think that they are basically complete garbage, and that a VA from Fiverr can do it or whatever, right? For like few bucks or whatever. But that's not the truth, okay? Because understand that 99% of businesses that are online are converting through websites, okay? So websites are literally the keys when it comes to conversion online. And what most of the businesses are online right now. If Amazon didn't had their website, they would be fucked, right? If like most of the agencies wouldn't have their website, they would be fucked, right? So this is why I want you to reframe how you think about funnels and how you think about websites overall. Because if you think about websites in the wrong terms, you will not get clients. I can guarantee you that. But understand that you are sitting on a literal gold mine. If you have a product that is valuable, you will make a lot of money if you funnel it correctly. Okay, if you funnel the attention correctly. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a subscribe or anything. I don't really care. And because I'm just trying to help you guys. And if you want to join the waiting list for Funnel Hub, a free community that's going to be coming up this spring, and I'm going to be sharing a bunch of value. I put a lot of attention into it, and I'm going to be taking people that are only willing to get a lot of results inside. So join the waiting list down below, and I'm going to be sharing the exact templates, resources, and stuff like that that I use to build funnels, so you can, as a beginner, complete beginner, build your own funnel. So that's it. Take care. I'm going to see you on the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Take care. Bye-bye.